Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. At the time of me filming this, it's been a while since I've actually filmed anything. But I am back with a very fun tag that I could not believe actually crossed over into the tarot sphere. This is the mid-year tarot tag, and it's a VR to Spirited Stardust 11. For those who don't recognize even part of that tag, Mid-Year Freakout was kind of like a tag started in the booktube sphere where like a lot of booktubers would talk about how their reading so far had gone. And I mean, that's not actually that far off from tarot. So today we're going to be examining how my tarot reading has gone so far for this half of the year. I mean, this could change completely by the end of the year, but you know, that's why it's called the mid-year. Anyways, I'm going to put all the prompts to this tag below. So if you see this video and want to do it yourself, you can. But yeah, I'm going to get right into it with the first one. So number 1 in the mid-year tarot tag is favorite deck you've used so far in 2023. And to be honest, I'm kind of split down the middle between these two, the Guided Hand Tarot and the Northern Animal Tarot. And the reason why I'm split is because both of these have had such impactful readings for me during this year so far that it's really hard to just decide which one I've kind of liked using a little bit more. Sorry, I'm like trying to get these out. Sometimes this deck, if you don't know, the Northern Animal is like basically 100 or so cards. So always a little bit big trying to get these out. They're chonkers. It is a chonker, and you can even see it immediately because like look at the size. Look at the size of the Guided Hand and then like look at how much extra space. But anyways, both of these decks have been impactful in different ways. Northern Animal Tarot has been impactful because not only because of the readings I've been able to do, like I've done my 6-month ahead spread with this deck for this year, and then also, you know, the fact that besides having some impactful readings with this one, I also use this deck to do a bunch of readings for other people, and I feel like with that being done, you know, it played a really big role for a lot of people. Guided Hand Tarot has also been really good because it's a deck that I've used to do a few impactful spreads this year. One of them was, if you guys saw that video, one of the spreads I've done with the Guided Hand Tarot was that 9-card spread, and it just gave such, I don't know, it gave such a powerful reading that I was like, wow, this deck, man, every single time I use the Guided Hand Tarot, I'm just like, what the hell, you know? It does such good things. And oh, this Page of Swords is so good. I don't know why he reminds that I've talked about this before. This Page of Swords, for some reason, always reminds me of my dad when he was younger. But yeah, both of these have just been really impactful in different ways. This one has done a lot of impact for other people as well as myself. This one has been more personal, but this is also a deck that like I was so tempted to use for some other people too, to help, you know, with their readings. But either way, both of these decks are so good. And I've enjoyed using them a lot so far in 2023. So that's why I'm showing them off. Okay, next up, prompt number 2 is a new deck that came into your collection this year. And I wanted to once again highlight this deck. This is the Dream Symbol Oracle deck by Copper Rabbit Illustrations, Canadian creator. Really good deck. This is an oracle, but I use this deck mostly for, well, the more for like dream work, you know. These are the beautiful backs. Look at how I'm obsessed. These backs are always so good. So good. If I do a video, I haven't done one yet, but if I do a video about favorite deck backs, this will probably be in it. But pretty, it looks like a thin deck, but there are over 50 cards in this deck. And I know I keep talking about it. Every time I pull out this deck, I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll do a walkthrough of this. Have not done a walkthrough of it yet, but I feel like I should. This deck is beautiful. It's very simple, as you can see. You have a title for the deck, and then you have an image related to the title. Gets very straight to the point about imagery that can come up a lot in people's dreams, like storms, snakes. If you ever had a dream where you were naked, you know, kind of that vibe. Doppelgangers, all kinds of stuff. And I love this deck, but this is new. This is new of this year. And I cannot believe it's new of this year because, I don't know, ever since I've used it, ever since I've gotten it, I've kind of just been using it like, here, let me space these out a little better. I've kind of been using it all the time. Like, and I think the reason why, again, is because like dream work, I tend to have really weird dreams, but I'm already starting to notice that there's like specific patterns in my dreams. I tend to dream a lot about the same things. So I'm kind of trying to sit with the why of that. Like, why am I dreaming of these kind of same situations over and over again? But they have a lot of interesting scenarios in here. Again, you could also use this like a regular oracle because it does give you the meaning of all the cards. But I tend to use this deck more for actual like trying to analyze like main themes that happen in my dreams. So maybe if I do a walkthrough of this deck eventually, I'll show like kind of that. But I think I've already talked about that before. Either way, oh, this looks just almost like my teapot now. That's so funny. Either way, this deck has been really, really nice coming into my collection. And yeah, I can't really see myself without it now. So that was prompt number 2. Okay, prompt number 3 is most anticipated deck release this year. And not gonna lie, for me, it was definitely these two because for those who don't already know, not in the know, didn't watch that video, didn't bother, I have the special edition of the Citadel Oracle. So, you know, normally it comes in just this box, but because I have the special edition, it also came with the deck of emblems and some other goodies in there. But these two, definitely my most anticipated because I am a fantasy nerd. I love all things fantasy. It is my bread and butter. Oops, sorry. I'm like clanging and destroying things in the background. That's so great. But this deck was beyond, for sure, my most anticipated of the year because, yeah, again, I love fantasy. I'm obsessed with this. By the way, I'm obsessed with the shape of both of these decks. These are the backs. I do like that the two decks have different backs, but both backs are stunning. So this is the regular Citadel. It'll look like this. And the deck of emblems has more of this kind of design, but still beautiful. They're, as you can see, they're both the same shape, even though they're different sizes. As you can tell, the Citadel, of course, is bigger. The deck of emblems only has 30 in it. And for those who are curious, like, oh, what's really the difference between having the special edition and having the regular Citadel? Well, obviously, if you don't have a special edition, you don't even have this deck, so there would be that. Special edition of the Citadel also comes with this really nice matte red edging. It actually feels really nice. It's really nice. Anyways, sorry. That's a tangent. Let's get into viewing the cards and talking about why this was my most anticipated. For those who don't know yet about the Citadel, oh yeah, and by the way, it has like this beautiful gold foiling, and in both of the decks. The reason why this deck was my most anticipated is because, as I said, I am a lover of fantasy. But it's not just like reading fantasy and like playing games like D&D, because I'm also a D&D fan if you've been around here a little while. It's not just that, is that I am actually, if I haven't mentioned that already too, I write books, and what's my main genre? Fantasy. And so for me, when this deck was going to come out, or when it was announced, I kind of lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, I need this now. I need it now. I need it. Where is it? I was like, ooh, this one's for some reason reversed. I was like desperately looking in my inbox for it because I wanted it so desperately. And I mean, look at some of these archetypes, right? Like the witch, and a deck of emblems is more items, and a torch, you know. It is the coolest thing, even having the queen with helmet. And I just love the deck's format. Again, this style of, this size for me works really well for some reason in shuffling too. And it fits really well in my hand, which is amazing also. And I'm loving the keywords. I'm not usually someone who likes all the clutter of like keywords on the card, but I think they're perfect for this, and you don't always have to look in the guidebook unless you want a deeper like meanings for these. But yeah, these were by far, or this special edition was by far my most anticipated of the year of what I've already ordered. Now there's some decks I cannot wait till they come out, but I really do not know how I'm gonna actually feel about them. So Above and Beyond, this was my favorite that I was waiting for, and I'm glad that it came to me. And if you are a lover of fantasy too, even though this deck is minimalist, I was gonna say minimal color scheme or limited color scheme kind of bothered me too, but it doesn't in this deck, and I don't know why, but it doesn't. So if you love fantasy, definitely give this one for sure a try. Special edition is very expensive, so if you don't want to ship from the UK, yeah, don't bother. It's okay. This just has some deeper like tie-ins with this, and you can use them kind of interchangeably. But this will of course have the most impact. So yeah, most anticipated of the year. Okay, prompt number 4 will surprise literally nobody. You see what this is. But prompt number 4 is your biggest disappointment of the year. And let's just be completely honest here. That was the literary tarot for me. Biggest disappointment. You can't tell by looking at the box, because I mean the box itself is actually like beautiful and has some pretty good there are some bits that have good production quality, but the reason why, I mean, even this book is actually pretty good. But the reason why this deck is my biggest disappointment this year, if you haven't seen that video, has to do with this deck's cardstock, okay? I'm going to be honest. A lot of this is influenced by cardstock, and a few other things. So let's get into that. The literary tarot. I'm gonna warn you, because if you're someone like me who's kind of in between being like, I don't give a shit about cardstock, and being a cardstock snob, you are not gonna like this. This cardstock is awful. As you can see, there's a lot of gold. And the backs of this one has rainbow gold, so that is cool. And then the front also has gold. But that's also something that's kind of disappointing at the same time. I love gold, but I'll admit this deck has too much. Like, back is gold, front of cards is gold, and then the edging is also gold. And you can tell mine is tarnished more now. It looked more like this, but mine's tarnished more now, because to be able to use this deck effectively, like to actually use this deck, I had to do this thing where I took a pair of scissors and literally scraped off a lip that was on every single card. Like this card stock, this edging was so bad that all the cards were sticking together. So yeah, biggest disappointment is because the cardstock on this deck is the literal worst. Actually, I'm going to flip it like this. Cardstock on this deck is the literal worst. Every time I touch this deck, I feel like screaming. That's so bad. I know. That's like, some people are gonna be like, oh, get over it. You know, what the fuck? Like, move on from this terrible cardstock, right? Because the images on these cards are beautiful. And I do think that most of them are paired really well with the books that they're depicting, right? Like having the Hermit be Frankenstein's monster. Really, really good, right? Makes sense, okay? But it's the cardstock for me that just makes this so, and you could say, oh, get over it. But like, I'm autistic. And so I have issues with certain textural things. Like things like this will drive me bananas. Like I will never stop. If this deck ever came out with an edition that just didn't have this cardstock and maybe like less of this like crazy ass gold, I would probably be obsessed with this deck and using it all the time. But because of the terrible cardstock, despite the fact that like a lot of the imagery is beautiful, it just makes me less inspired to use it. I have still been trying to use it anyways because I'm someone who doesn't, even if a deck's not working, I try to hang on to it, and I am, again, a book nerd, so this should be the tarot deck for me, you know. But it's just, I don't know. In the end, I don't know how often I will use this, because again, even this, like this is not Beowulf, this is Macbeth, right? Nine of Quills. This shows the drama and like despair of it really well. But look at all the gold. I love gold. But this is kind of a little too much, okay? Like, I love the gold on the backs. I wish if it had just had the gold on the backs and then not this much gold in the front, I think it would have been more effective. But, yeah, because of that reason, mainly cardstock issues. And also, by the way, a lot of shady shit surrounding the production of this deck. Again, if you want to know what I'm talking about, please go watch my video. I'm not going to repeat it again. I'm tired of repeating that. But for that reason, of course, this ended up being my biggest disappointment of the year. Okay, prompt number 5 is biggest surprise of the year. Now, excuse me, I'm gonna... Sorry. Yeah, that sneeze was just waiting to come out. Anyways, biggest surprise of the year, number 5. Ended up being for me the Line Strider Tarot Mini. As you can see, I have the mini. This freaking, look at how beat up this box is getting. I think it's because like I took it with me to Canada and it was just being moved around from bag to bag, and like it was my travel deck while I was there, and look at, you can even see the thingy is starting to get like really loose and coming out. But anyways, Line Strider Tarot. This is not new to my collection, but this ended up being my biggest surprise of the year because I did not expect to bond with this deck as much as I have. Maybe I'll do something different. I'm going to go like this. Also because the images are kind of small, you know. I have the mini version. There is a full size, but if you've been around a while, you know I have like sometimes issues with like tons of white space. So this is kind of like my happy medium, is having this deck in a smaller format. But the reason why the Line Strider really surprised me this year is because before, I got this last year, but before that time, I had a moment with this deck where I wasn't sure if I had made the right choice in getting this deck. I kind of felt like, I was like, oh man, do I really actually understand this deck? I don't know if I understand this deck, you know. It's not clicking for me, blah, blah, blah. But then I started, because I was using it as a travel deck. I started having some really insightful readings with this deck. And all of a sudden, doing those readings, the imagery in this deck started to really click for me. It started to actually make sense, and it was just giving me exactly what I needed to hear, you know. For that reason, for anyone interested in this deck, I would say that this is a deck that, because of some of the white space and like color motifs, it gives you what you need very succinctly. But it's also not, I wouldn't say this deck is like mean necessarily, but it gives you exactly what you need to hear with some comfort to it. But some of the imagery can be a little intense for some, you know. But yeah, this deck, for some reason, we had a moment, we started to click, everything started to make a lot of sense with it. And now I'm actually really glad I have this in my collection. I'm really glad that this mini is, you know, really working for me for some reason. It's just, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have it. And I don't need to get rid of it because it actually does work for me. So for those interested, this is the Line Strider Tarot Mini. Again, I usually have mini versions of decks over big versions of decks if I can, because I have smaller hands and I like travel decks. I don't know. Some people are like, oh no, I can never have this itty bitty thing. And it's like, you know what? That's fine for you, but not working so much for me. So yeah, that is the Line Strider Tarot Mini. Okay, next prompt is number 6. I don't know why I'm doing this in my hands. Anyways, number 6 is deck crush, your current deck crush as of this mid-year time. And I would have to say there was a couple that could go into this, but I didn't want to repeat decks. So another one I see is also kind of a crush right now. But I decided to go with this one. This is a current deck crush of mine, which is Seasons of the Witch Mabon Oracle. A lot of you probably know about the Seasons of the Witch decks already from Rockpool. I don't have all of them, to be honest, and I have no interest in having a lot of them because I think I've already talked about this before, but I did not actually give a well, okay, no, I'm going to correct that before I'm too mean. It was not my preference of the art style of the artist who has done the deck so far. So when I found out that Seasons of the Witch Mabon had a different artist, illustrated by Tihana Lokovic, I was excited. I like her. I love her art style on here. Deck crush. This is an oracle. This is oracle sized. I do have problems with like holding it because, again, oracle sized decks are too big for my hands. As you can see, I'm like trying to stretch and it hurts. Has this beautiful copper, like orange edging. And the reason why this deck is my crush, though, is because, like, look at this freaking art style. I mean, this card's one of the most creepy in here, but look at this art style. Look at how homey. Look at how just beautiful this deck is. I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. Like, look at even this. This is just like an image of Firesider, but like it is so beautiful. Look at, and I love, by the way, I love, tobacco is like featured in here too. I am obsessed with the art style. I'm obsessed with the fact that there is diversity in here. I would say, I think most of the cards I'm seeing, the people are kind of younger. So maybe not as much age diversity, but definitely gender and race diversity really well. And look at how beautiful. I'm sorry. This is the Autumn Equinox. Beautiful. And also just like, I just like the messages that go with this card. So you get like the title of the card. Obviously you see the image. It tells you the number within the deck. And then it'll have little messages like this, like nothing is whole without the acceptance and acknowledgement of all. Right? The light and the dark. It is just the right, I don't know, it's the right balance for me. Some of those other decks, I didn't care about like some of their themes and whatever. But I'm excited to use this in the fall. I feel like I will want this at least for sure in October, but I might even want it in September. We'll see. It's just like, look at the Look at the frog or the toad. I guess it's a toad in this case, but it is so, I don't know, it's so beautiful. It's stunning. It is glossy. This is like on the edge of like being cardstock. I don't care for either. It's more shiny, but at the same time, I'm crushing on it because I'm upset. Like, look at how beautiful. Cranberries. Like, what the hell? This is probably my least favorite card. I don't know why. It just doesn't match the, like, the facial expression stuff don't match like the rest of the cards in this deck. But besides that, I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. It's beautiful. I'm crushing hard. I can't wait to use this. I'm like, I need it to be fall ready. So yeah, that is my, as mid-year time, this is my deck crush. Next up here is for number 7. Again, why am I still doing this? I don't know. Maybe I feel like I need to. Anyways, number 7 is a deck that made you cry. I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, why do you have to call us out? But anyways, deck that made me cry, unfortunately, ended up being the Ocean Tarot, and I'm gonna explain why, because like this isn't really a sad deck, and I was really excited to get this deck, so it's not like, you know. Anyways, the Ocean Tarot. These are the beautiful box. Like, these are so freaking cool. It has this, like, gold edging. I have a lot of edge decks this year. Anyways, the Ocean Tarot is beautiful. It's stunning. I love the artwork. But unfortunately, this deck did make me cry because, a little bit. I ended up, it was more like frustration tears than anything. I use this deck during the month of June for one of my weekly readings, and unfortunately with this deck, it happened to be that the cards I was pulling were basically showing I was going to have a very shit week ahead. I'm going to be honest here. It was a very shit week ahead, and the unfortunate thing too was that it was 100% correct. That week was awful. It was when a lot of stuff at my work was hitting the fan, like a lot of just shitty things were going on, and it made me very frustrated. I was very upsetty spaghetti because I was like, are you kidding me? It was more of like, not necessarily, because the thing with tarot is that like any deck could have told me this, right? But I guess it just happened to be this one at the time, and it's one of those are you kidding me moments, of course, because, you know, you just don't always want to hear that you're going to have like a really bad week, because it was like a really bad week. And all the cards in that reading almost were swords, so that's kind of how you know too. You're going to go through a lot of mental frustrations and stuff. I was just not... I was not happy with it, but it is what it is, right? This is a stunning deck, but yeah, it just made me very frustrated because, again, who wants to be told they're going to have a bad week? Nobody. But sometimes the tarot will do that, right? You have to hear the right messages at the right time, and it just happened to be with this deck. Okay, moving away from decks, a deck that made me cry, number 8 on this list is a deck that made you happy. And to be honest, I can't pick just one. Both of these decks made me happy in different ways. This deck right here is the Roots and Wings Oracle. This is the mini or pocket version. I don't know if it's called pocket or mini. I can't remember. But for sure, I know I have the imperfect edition, which I don't really know quite what that means, but the cardstock on this is very thin. And it is, I think it's because the edges, I don't know if you can tell, but the edges are a little rough, which again, I don't really give a shit about. So I was able to snatch this up for a good price. This deck is, the Practical Magic Tarot by Chingay Labrador. I'm specifying who because I guess there's another deck that's also kind of goes by the name Practical Magic, but these are the backs for this deck, backs for this one. Both of these decks, since I have two of them, I guess I'll just compare them side by side again. Both of these decks made me happy for different reasons. For the Roots and Wings Oracle, I think the reason why it made me so happy was, again, more of like what it did for me and others. So I used, when I was doing, I'm going to talk more about that in my July wrap-up video, or musings as I call them. But when I was doing readings for people very, very, very early July, not only did I use that Northern Animal Tarot as I showed when I was doing readings for others, but I used the Roots and Wings as my clarifying oracle, and it worked really, really well. Such powerful messages from the Roots and Wings. And also because like I did do a couple spreads with this also. To just, you know, go through the motions, think about things, I used this deck. So for that reason, this made me very happy because it made the people too that I was doing readings for very calm and happy by the end of their reading. And that in turn makes me happy because I was able to impress that upon others. The reason why, though, that Practical Magic Tarot made me happy this year is because this is just such a fun deck. I use this, I was very happy when I got it. It was one of those decks I was trying to do help me choose. I was like going between this one and a different deck. And I am very happy with my purchase getting this one. It also just made me happy because I used this deck for one deck on Wild, and it was just so funny to kind of like try to personify this deck. Because this one too, for those who are interested, I would say I'm not usually someone who, I don't usually like to personify my decks, but I will say this deck has a very youthful, almost teenage energy to it. I don't know how to explain that, but it's like definitely a youth feeling deck, but sometimes you need that playful, energy. So this just made me happy in that way. And it has a lot of like beautiful, as you can see, it has a lot of beautiful bright colors. A lot of fun collaging because it is a collage style deck. See, even this is like happily ever after. And it's like the mint, not mint, these little candies, you know, like the Valentine's candies. It's just so playful and fun. So this deck also has made me very happy this year. And yeah, I wanted to show that off. Okay, everyone, we're on number 9 now, number 9 of the mid-year tag. Number 9 is most beautiful deck this year, and this is the mid-year, so maybe this will change, but so far, I have to say, my most beautiful deck ended up being this. I'm still like processing the fact that I even got this deck. This is one of my unicorns. This is the Tildwyk Tarot. This is a 10th anniversary edition. And it is stunning. It comes in one of these like boxes with the nice cutout. I'll leave that there on the side. Stunning in every way. Like this guidebook, for instance. I guess this didn't used to exist in other editions. It's all color in here though, so it's really nice. Except, and it shows the cards, except if I don't go like this, I literally cannot see. Because in person, this is like microscopic, even for me. So that's the one thing I'll warn you against. Microscopic guidebook. But this deck itself is stunning. Again, I don't know what the theme is this year. A lot of gold and coppery edges on my decks. But this deck is by far the most beautiful because, first off, look at these backs. These backs are beautiful. Cardstock is also amazing. It's like this art smooth, like it has slight texture, but it's like a mostly smooth art paperish texture, and it makes like that kind of noise. But it's so beautiful. And I mean, look at these cards. I'm sorry. This isn't beautiful. Like, who would look at this deck and go, "No, that's ugly"? I don't know how. I don't know how you could think that, because this deck is stunning. Look at it. It's got that, like, it's this moment in time, you know. It has this Regency feel to it, like the Regency houses. But the images that are displayed are just so, I think it's just so perfect. Not everybody, okay, maybe not for all. I will admit, I find this beautiful, and the things that it's depicting are beautiful. But this wouldn't be a deck for everybody, because you really need to look in the images to figure out what card it's like explaining. I mean, the titles are there, but you really have to sit with the image for a second and like kind of feel it to understand, oh, this is the 9, you know, this is the 8 of Cups. Like, how is it showing that? Just because you have to be intuitive, I think, and be able to get symbolism a lot. If you're someone who struggles with symbolism, this might not be the deck for you. But I really love it. It's so beautiful. The images that it depicts are they're just so grand, but they feel so, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's ancient, but it's not. This is also a deck crush for me. I almost put this in a deck crush tag, but obviously this is just so stunning. So I had to put it here. So this is my most beautiful deck of the year so far, by far. And finally, number 10 on this video for the mid-year tag asks you, what deck do you want by the end of the year? This could be, I guess, any deck for anybody, really. But I'm choosing to interpret this as, what deck do I want by the end of the year? Because I'm literally waiting for it. Like, I either backed it on Kickstarter in these cases of the 2 I'm going to talk about, or it's just, you know it's coming out this year. But it's just not time for release yet if it's a mass market, you know. For me, I have to say, what decks do I want by the end of the year? For sure, because there's one deck that I'm anticipating, but I don't know if it's going to hold up to anticipation, so I'm not going to buy it yet. Anyways, not going into that one. What deck do I want by the end of the year? For sure has to be, if I have time to put the image, maybe I'll put an image in here, but if not, sorry. But the 2 decks I want for sure by the end of the year are the Lillifer Tarot. I backed the 2nd edition on Kickstarter. Very excited about that one. Don't know at this point when I'm going to get it. I'm going to assume, if anything, it'd probably be like August or like August time or September at this point. It's a little later than it's going to be, but again, like production things, Kickstarters, this happens a lot. So I'm not sweating bullets, but I do want it by the end of the year. Another deck that I want by the end of the year is the Victorian Fairy Tarot. A couple people have the now out of print mass market edition of the Victorian Fairy Tarot, Linnea Weatherstone, and there's some other people involved in it. But like, anyways, they did another Kickstarter for that deck as well. And since it's the mass market edition's out of print, they're doing things their own way with it. I'm really excited for that deck because, I don't know, it seems like the one fairy deck that I actually, besides, I guess, Shadowscapes, because Shadowscapes also kind of gives that fairy vibe. It's like the other direction of fairies that I can put up with, I think. And I'm very excited for that because that deck will also come with a mini version of the deck. So I'm like, yes, everyone's happy here and I cannot wait, okay? I think that one's supposed to come by sometime in October, November-ish, but I cannot wait. But anyways, yeah, that is it for the mid-year tarot tag. I hope you guys enjoyed looking through my choices. I would love to do this kind of video again, maybe sometime next year, of course, but instead of being favorite deck you used so far in 2023, of course, it'd be 2024. But yeah, some great stuff so far in the year, and I can't wait to see where tarot takes me the rest of the year. So with that, I'm going to close out and I will see you all again next time. Bye.